Welcome back to Retro Rewind. That feels cool to say. For any of my newer subscribers who don't know, this is a segment that I used to do back in the day where I would simply cherry pick something from back in the day and talk about it. Really easy to describe, not that complicated. Some of you may have noticed over the past few weeks that one of my newest tattoos is of Hey Arnold. All of my tats are something very personal to me, whether it was something that helped me through a dark period in my life, or something that made me want to learn how to write or direct, or simply inspired me. Hey Arnold was definitely something that meant a lot to me when I was a kid, but first a little history about the show. The show was created by Craig Bartlett. It ran for multiple seasons, spawned a theatrical film, as well as a made-for-television movie in 2017 that completed the story. It followed a kid named Arnold who had a football-shaped head. Him and his best friend Gerald went on various adventures throughout the city, navigating fourth grade youth in a surprisingly grounded and realistic setting. His greatest bully, Helga G. Pataki, actually has a secret crush on him and has been in love with him ever since preschool. This was one of the shows that not only helped me through some of the darker periods of youth when I was being bullied heavily in school, but also when I was having doubts about the faith that I was raised in. And one of the reasons the show helped me so much was because it felt kind of like my life. I was born and raised in Akron, Ohio, and so this environment felt very real to me. It just felt grounded. It felt realistic. It didn't seem fantastical like other Nickelodeon shows like Angry Beavers or Wild Thornberrys or All Real Monsters or even Rugrats. It just felt like it existed in the real world. The neighborhood in the show reminds me of the one I had as a kid. It looks exactly the same to me. There were so many times where my friends and I would try to go to a vacant lot and play baseball and wonder if somebody would be using that lot. We'd play baseball or basketball in the streets and yell when a car is coming. We all knew crazy, eccentric people because Arnold is raised in a boarding house. He lives there with his grandparents. He doesn't know where his parents are. His parents left when he was very young on a trip and never came back. So he lives in this boarding house with his grandparents filled with stray dogs and cats and a pig that always run out the front door whenever they open it. There's Ernie Potts, a construction worker that must have been inspired in some way by Danny DeVito. If he wasn't, I'd be very surprised. There's Oscar, a low-life cheapskate who tries to get everyone to do things for him constantly without lifting a finger. And my personal favorite, Mr. Wynn, a chef who also lives in the boarding house, who surprisingly is a very good country singer. Everything about the show reminded me of my childhood. It felt aesthetically like the environment that I understood, that I was from. And it felt very real to me. Hey Arnold was a very grounded cartoon. There were many episodes that were extremely adult. There's one where Mr. Green, the town butcher, runs for councilman because he's tired of all the potholes around his butcher shop. There's an episode where Arnold's grandpa and Gerald's father go on a trip for Veterans Day, and they both tell their grandchild and son, respectively, stories about what they did in various wars. Grandpa talking about World War II, and Gerald's dad talking about Vietnam. And there's this excellent storyline where Gerald is disappointed that he finds out his dad mostly just did office work, and he feels like his dad wasn't a hero, and he has to learn that everything that people did in that scenario meant something, and it was like really powerful. There's a lot of episodes that were surprisingly adult themed, and there's also adult themed jokes as well.
And you've still got plenty of brain cells.
No, not since Woodstock.
And if you really want to get deep, there's a character named Chocolate Boy, a young kid in school who's obsessed with chocolate, is constantly eating it, it's all over his face. He's hyper-focused on chocolate, clearly a metaphor for drug addiction. There's even an episode where Arnold tries to get Chocolate Boy off of chocolate by giving him substitutes, and it's very difficult for him. Helga's mom is essentially an alcoholic. She's always wanting to make a smoothie. She forgets to make Helga's lunch. She's often sleeping around the house. When I was a kid, I just thought, wow, she's really lazy. As an adult, I realized, okay, that's clearly a metaphor for alcoholism. In fact, Helga's dad often forgets her first name, referring to her as Olga, her older and far more successful sister that Helga's parents clearly wishes Helga was more like. I don't know how these shows got away with it. I mean, shows like Ren and Stimpy or Rocko's Modern Life had tons of adult humor, and looking back on it now, I'm very glad that I was subtly corrupted by them. Hey Arnold also had a lot of great horror-themed episodes, like The Haunted Train, an episode where Grandpa realizes all the kids are very bored, so he tells them the legend of the haunted train, and the kids set off to the train yard to try to find the train. Or the episode about the ghost of Four-Eyed Jack, a spirit that haunts the boarding house, searching for his pair of glasses. There's also a great episode called Headless Cabby, where Arnold tells all of his friends during a sleepover the legend of the Headless Cabby. Supposedly one night in the middle of a cobblestone park, on a horse-drawn carriage, a person got their head ripped off when their scarf gets tangled in a tree branch. Or there's Wheezin' Ed, the tale of a man who coughs very loudly and can't breathe properly, who supposedly lives in a cave on Elk Island. And most of these urban legends are told by Gerald, which is one of my favorite aspects of the show. And the Wheezin' Ed segment has surprisingly disturbing artwork. I've always loved the artwork for this show, especially the backgrounds and locations. And of course, who could forget the iconic Stoop Kid and Pigeon Man?
One day, someone saw a dark figure moving among the avian multitudes. For lo, alone on the roof of that 88th Street building lived the creature, half man and half bird, known only as Pigeon Man. Some say he was hatched from an egg and left by aliens. And he had a beak and a tail. Some say he survives by eating leaves, twigs, and worms. Some say he's a guy in a chicken suit, a lonely, deranged man wanting only birds for company. Who knows? I don't. But to this day, flocks of pigeons gather on the roof. And that can only mean that someone is caring for them. Someone known as Pigeon Man. The end.
And there's an episode called Operation Ruthless that has one of the best endings in the entire show, if not the best ending. Arnold has a gigantic crush on a sixth grader named Ruth, and Helga is of course very jealous about this. So when Arnold is trying to get Ruth's attention at a cheese festival, Helga takes the opportunity to ruin their night every step of the way, always making Arnold's night go poorly. And by the end of the episode, she's kind of devastated that she's ruined Arnold's night because she loves this guy, but she's afraid to say it because she's his biggest bully. But what's special about this ending is that Arnold walks off, and then Phoebe, Helga's best friend, takes Gerald's hand and leaves as well. And Helga remains in an abandoned, darkened festival, doomed to spend the rest of the night alone. And it just ends there. There's no wink to the camera, there's no joke. It's just like, look, if you're going to try to actively ruin someone's life, it's probably going to backfire on you as well. The show's soundtrack by Jim Lang is, as far as I'm concerned, iconic. It's just an incredible 90s Nicktoons soundtrack. It's very jazz-oriented. It has to this day my favorite Nicktoons theme song. And even though the show had so much going for it already, the character work was always very strong. The mystery of what happened to Arnold's parents bugged me for years. The theatrical film had very little to do with it, and I think they were planning on doing more, but the most they had gotten out of it was this episode called The Journal, where Arnold finds a journal of his father's expeditions, and it still doesn't quite answer what happened, but he learns that his parents were sort of like an Indiana Jones and a Lara Croft Tomb Raider couple, and they were just out in the jungle trying to rescue people and save people, and they went missing. It wasn't until the Jungle movie finally came out in 2017, and I was absolutely terrified to watch it, because it was one of those experiences where I was very afraid that my childhood was about to be ruined or tarnished in some way. I can't tell you how relieved I was when the film was just as good as the show. It was so satisfying. It wasn't just fan service, it was just a natural continuation of what you had come to expect out of the show and never got. So to watch it in 2017 was kind of magical, to finally see all these arcs come together. It was just the greatest ending for this series. If they never make any Hey Arnold again, I am perfectly fine with that because it ended just right. So Craig Bartlett, if you happen to be watching this, thank you so much for creating Hey Arnold. I love this show and I always have. It helped me through a dark time in my life, and it really encouraged me a lot, and I still love watching it to this day, and I'm so glad that it exists.
Embittered by the love and normal boyhood that was stolen from him, Stoop Kid became meaner and meaner by the day. He began to lash out at the passers-by, taking out upon them the anger of a young, loveless child. He became so protective of his Stoop that who so much as looked at it would face the wrath of the Stoop Kid. His accusatory barbs, and yea, even physical violence. The end.
Good job, Gerald.
Thanks.
Guys, thank you so much for watching this video. Look forward to more episodes of Retro Rewind very soon, but I also want to give a big thank you to the sponsor for this video, NordPass. NordPass is a new generation password manager where security meets simplicity. It's brought to you by the cybersecurity experts who built NordVPN, the advanced online security and privacy app trusted by more than 14 million users worldwide. You can store all your passwords in one place, organize your logos and private notes in a secure password vault. Access it all with a single master password. You can shop online with ease. NordPass remembers your credit card details. You can share passwords securely. No more password sharing over email, messenger apps, or pieces of paper. You can use Password Health to check if your passwords are weak, older than 90 days, or used for several accounts. There's also a data breach scanner where you can find out if your online account or credit card information has been leaked. NordPass also recognizes suspicious websites so you don't accidentally reveal your sensitive information. And you can generate secure passwords. The more complex the password, the safer your account. So for a limited time, grab the 2-year NordPass premium plan for 50% off at nordpass.com/Stuckmann, or use the code Stuckmann. So please check out that link in the description below. Thank you so much to NordPass for sponsoring this video, and thank you guys so much as always for watching. Look forward to more very soon. And if you like this, you can click right here and get Stuckmannized.